You may be wondering why I'm wearing a red shirt. Is it so the bad guys can't see me bleed? No. It's so you can't see spaghetti sauce splattered all over me when I do something stupid on a step and then have to film right afterwards. It's to save me time and effort. Hello, welcome back to my kitchen. Today we're making something not necessarily spooky, but I do have a pumpkin, so it makes it spooky season appropriate. When I was a kid, we had a tradition on every Halloween, we'd have spaghetti right before going out trick-or-treating. So the first episode of the Spooktober extravaganza brought to you by me is going to be spaghetti. So we're gonna make spaghetti. Well, specifically we're making spaghetti sauce. So like the sauce is a homemade spaghetti sauce, because if I just made like spaghetti, I'd be buying a jar of store-bought sauce and just heating up meat and then pouring that on top and then making noodles. Not too exciting for the viewers at home. So we're gonna make it from scratch. And it's not one of those, my great-grandmother gave me this recipe and it requires you to simmer it for 48 hours. It's a 30-minute simmer step, so pretty straightforward, probably about a 45-minute total. Easy peasy, anybody can do this. So I just wanted to share like this tradition with all of you, and hopefully you enjoy it. So why don't we run through the ingredients and then we'll get into cooking. 1 pound of meat, half a pound ground pork, half a pound ground beef, salt and pepper, an onion, tomato sauce, tomato paste, Italian seasoning, parsley flakes, garlic powder, red pepper flakes. I don't know why I keep picking recipes with this in it, but Worcestershire sauce, hopefully that was close. Sugar, a cup of water, some fresh basil, and spaghetti noodles. The first step is going to be to put the ground beef and the ground pork like in a bowl, season with salt and pepper, and just kind of mix it all together. I'm gonna do it by hand. Obviously you can use like a wooden spoon or something like that, but a little PSA, if you're doing it by hand, it's raw meat, wash your hands afterwards, because we don't want to get sick here. The next step is going to be to cook the onions and the kind of ground beef, ground pork mix that we have. The recipe calls for you to kind of put both in at the same time, but I typically will do the onions first and then add the meat afterwards. You just kind of like push the onions to the side and then cook the meat in there. I don't really have a logical reason for that. That's just one of those situations that my mom would do it that way, and I picked it up, and that's how I do it now. Granted, if you do the meat, it kind of produces oil, so you wouldn't have to add oil. So like my way, you do have to add a little bit of oil. So you do what you got to do. And then afterwards, if there's like excess grease, pour that off, because we don't want to have a super greasy sauce at the end of this. The next step is pretty much to add all of the other ingredients besides the water, which let's see if my memory can remember all of that. It's the tomato sauce, tomato paste, garlic powder, parsley flakes, red chili flakes, sugar, Worcestershire sauce. I think that's it. I think I nailed all of them. If I didn't say something, I'll obviously put it on the screen, but just pretty much all the other ingredients except for the water, and we're going to just add those to the pan, kind of stir it all up. Once it's thoroughly mixed, then we add in the water, and now just simmer for 30 minutes. And now in the 30 minutes of simmering for the sauce, make the spaghetti noodles. Probably try and aim to finish at the same time as the sauce is finishing. And I can't really give you a amount of time that's gonna take, because at least for gluten-free noodles, I can't really remember for normal pasta noodles, but for gluten-free, those times vary depending on like what makes the pasta, like what it's made of. So like you can have like quinoa, brown rice, corn, a whole bunch of different things. And whatever those components are will dictate how much time it takes. So like mine take 10 minutes. However, I will say I'm going to put mine in for 8 minutes, and then I taste test, and then add a minute taste, and then like add another minute if it needs the full 10. Because with pasta, if you overcook it, you can't really reverse time. But if you undercook it, you can leave it in there for a little bit longer. I'm sure everybody knows that, but if anybody doesn't, now you know. So here we have it. Overall process, pretty simple. I mean, you're making spaghetti, it's not rocket science. However, you do get a lot of splatter when you're simmering it for 30 minutes. And I've never done this before, and I feel like it's typically, at least in my head, marketed as preventing splatter from hot oils, but like that like mesh thing that you can put over top of pans. Threw that on top, no mess. So either I've been missing out or I've just revolutionized the game. It's probably other people have thought of it, and then I've just been living in the Stone Age. Spaghetti, pretty straightforward, you know, cut and dry. Let's give this a taste and see how it stacks up. That is quite good. It definitely has a little bit more of the kind of tomato acidity to it, and I think that's coming a lot from the tomato paste, because there's a lot in there. I wasn't expecting to have to put the whole 6-ounce can. It's not bad. I think maybe adding a little bit more of the red pepper flakes, or maybe even choosing a like spicy sausage to use instead of the pork, that might kind of balance that out a little bit. At least in my head, I'm thinking spicy would kind of be a nice complement to that. I could be wrong. And I also realized after taking a bite that I didn't put any fresh basil on. So I have a whole basil plant that I'm not using, so I'll do that after this, but I'm not stopping and re-recording stuff. I've come too far. But yeah, so overall, tasty. Obviously, it's not gonna have that same nostalgia factor. Maybe if I make this on Halloween night, it might have some of that same same stuff. But I mean, and thinking about it, I think my mom would make the spaghetti with a spicy sausage, and I think beef. I'm trying to think back if she used, because I think she used sweet and spicy sausage, and I don't know if she only used that. I should have contacted her beforehand, but I was just thinking I'll just find a spaghetti recipe and go with that. I wasn't really trying to copy hers, but after tasting this, thinking of like the spiciness might balance this out, it reminded me of all that she would put in it. So yeah, so obviously spaghetti sauce is a pretty simple recipe to do. Beyond, it was just like cutting onions was really the only like prep that I had to do. Everything else just kind of put in a pan. You might want to use a slightly bigger pan. Like mine fit, but some of the stirring was living life on the edge. So maybe upgrade to like the Dutch oven. It would be overkill for the size of the Dutch oven that I have, but it would probably reduce splatter to begin with, and then also prevent spillage when stirring. Those kind of things would be like improvements for the future, specifically for this recipe. But then obviously spaghetti sauce, there's a lot of variations, a lot of different ways to do it. And I thought of this morning, because I'm pretty sure this exists, doing like pumpkin in your spaghetti sauce. That would have really tied it in a little bit more to the fall spooky season theme. But once again, you live and you learn. Today there was a hurricane, so I couldn't really go to the store to ad-lib any of these things. And I was slightly worried that I might not have had power to film this in, but nothing bad happened. A tree branch fell in my yard, bending a bird feeder pole that I have. And beyond that, no damage. I peeked up in my attic. and I didn't see any water leaking through, so I think I'm good to go. I didn't hear any loud crashes while I was sitting at home. All that's good. This is tasty. I'm very happy with it. And I mean, it's a super simple recipe. Obviously it has meat in it, so if you're vegetarian or vegan, not necessarily the play for you, but I'm pretty sure just removing this would be fine, but there's probably like things to balance out a vegan or vegetarian like spaghetti sauce versus just removing the meat from this, because I'm guessing it kind of adds some level of flavor that the other things are working with. But I mean, you're more than welcome just to remove it and let me know how that goes. But this recipe itself, tasty. So I'd recommend it if you are into that kind of thing. And if not, then I appreciate you getting this far in the video if you don't like spaghetti. So you're a cool person. And on that note, bye Mom, still not dead. See ya.